let's get into our AI radar segment, the segment where we break down the biggest headlines and updates from the world's leading AI players. Hopefully, you'll have some for us this week that actually did happen. What do you got?
Google I/O 2025 was a fire hose of AI announcements. Gemini 2.5 Pro, which is now powering search's AI mode for all US users. This is kind of sweeping all the benchmarks and now supports more agentic capabilities like multitasking, kind of doing things over time. And then a newer Gemini Flash, which is very fast model and very capable. And a new deep thinking mode, which shows off real gains in math, coding, and multimodal reasoning, but kind of deeper levels of thinking.
Is this just like a fundamental shift of the internet where the internet is now, it is AI?
I give Google, I pick on them a lot for having bad productization of their AI models. But the one place that I'm pretty impressed is with AI mode in search, where they really are leaning into in what is for them the business model hardest thing to do. I mean, it's actually taking 10 blue links and turning it into a simple answer with no ads or much harder to place ads. So this is hitting at the cash cow of Google. And it feels like, yeah, we are moving to a world where you don't like navigate to websites as much. You just get answers. And I think there's a lot of open questions about the revenue model for the people who are producing the websites that were used to produce said answers and how this all plays out. But it definitely feels like the future of search or navigating the internet is AI and answers and not 10 blue links. And it's really going to be fascinating to see how everybody adapts to that reality.
It's going to be very interesting to watch that play out.
Well, if we move on to the creative front, Google dropped a couple of interesting announcements. First up, VO3, a next-gen video model that generates not just video, but synchronized sound effects and ambient audio and even dialogue, raising the bar for AI filmmaking. And they integrated VO into a new Flow platform that allows natural language scene creation, has some editing tools. You can use images as prompts for scenes, and you can stitch together multiple scenes. And then along with this, Imagen 4 bringing sharper image generation, better typography, so getting good at actually putting the words you want into the images you're generating. And they bundle all of this into a new, nice and easy to digest $250 a month Google Ultra plan. I love seeing not just new models, but now new image generation, new video generation, and the audio. That's a totally game-changing capability to have ambient audio, dialogue coming straight out of the singular model. That's very, very interesting and new.
And I do wonder the adoption, like how much amateur filmmakers will be able to now you have director, editor, creative types all in one package. You don't have to do as much, get as many humans involved. And so can we get more sort of creative ideas out there from different sources versus what are the big studios going to do? How are they going to react? Will they lean into this technology or lean out? I think that'll be interesting to watch also.
I will be less interested, to be frank, in what the big studios do. And more, I was looking at what's the college kid who wants to be the aspiring filmmaker going to, I mean, the kinds of shorts you'll be able to get out of a high school or a college student who's just really interested and doesn't have a budget, but, has maybe $250 a month to pay for Google Ultra. Like, there's going to be really remarkable stuff on that front. So I think if you're a creative person, the tools to express that, I mean, it's just such an exciting time to see.
Yeah, I agree with that.
The on-device stuff, so Google really leaning into their Gemma models 3N for optimized, very small on-device. But maybe my favorite feature, because the product we've talked about more than any other from Google is Notebook LM. There is now a mobile phone app for iOS and Android. And not out yet, but rumored, they've said it's coming, is a visual version of their summaries. So we're used to get the audio summaries with a podcast. Now you can get a visual summary where they'll actually put graphics into a video overview of whatever it is you gave them. So that just sounds super cool. I want video overviews in my Notebook LM.
Yeah, that is cool.
We'll keep going. Google Meet supports real-time Gemini-powered translation. So in the meeting, while somebody's speaking one language, you can hear it in your native language. This may switch me back from Zoom to Meet because this is a very cool feature. And last but not least, in search and shopping, Google debuted a try it on for virtual clothes fitting. So you can see things in Google search and then you can put it onto your own face and theoretically body. So you can actually see what you would look like in clothes directly in the Google searches. So
Jeff, I have to tell you, every woman my age has been waiting for this feature since Clueless came out in the 90s. And Cher had that thing on her computer where she could look at the different things in her closet and see what they looked like. We've been waiting for this feature and it's here and the future is now.
I just love seeing AI in these places that you kind of don't think of as AI or AI, like not the place you expect it to get, not coding or writing. And they do really interesting and fun things that are valuable for people in their lives. And that to me is like some of the kind of more fun stories than just the basic, Gemini 2.5 Pro with deep thinking mode.
Yes, agreed.
But I'm going to take us back to more boring models. Anthropic rolled out Claude 4, led by the new Opus 4 model, which they say surpasses GPT 4.1 in benchmarks. Opus 4 particularly strong in coding and problem solving and completing multi-hour autonomous projects. So they've been doing like 7 or 10 hour coding projects where it will keep operating for that long a period of time. So kind of a crazy large, capable model. And then alongside Opus 4, a new Sonnet 4 model, a slightly smaller version, is now powering the free Claude experience. Both models introduce thinking summaries and a beta extended thinking mode. So you can both ask it to think longer. And I actually love these thinking summaries where you can see how it thought about something, how it came to the answer. Like that thought process is just fascinating to watch sometimes.
The Claude 4, I was reading about it, 7 hours on a solo coding project, right? This was like an example. That's not a co-pilot or like a person assisting an engineer. That is a full-time engineer doing a full stack product development. That's remarkable to sort of think about how far these things have come.
Yeah, and there's a lot of this going on with this kind of. I think the drive this year is to longer tasks, more complicated tasks being operated autonomously. Where it's not I'm waiting, but I'm actually seeing what's going on and allowing you to kind of complete a larger thing that takes time. And so, a real belief that these models are going to turn into people, like virtual employees, virtual coders, virtual whatever this year over the next 12 months. So, first step in that direction.
For sure.
OpenAI just acquired IO, the stealthy AI device startup co-founded by former Apple designer Johnny Ive, in a $6.5 billion deal. The teams have been collaborating for a couple of years to build AI native devices that go quote unquote beyond screens. And they're expected to ship their first product in 2026. And Sam has come out talking about like 100 million devices, like really big size numbers. So interesting that OpenAI is bringing this in house, but kind of it'd be very interesting to see. They say it's not glasses and it's not a screen and it will know what's going on in your world. I don't know what that means, but I guess Johnny's going to try and give us something brand new for an AI first device, and Sam wants to be the guy that's putting it in market. So
Yeah, this is super fascinating to think about the beyond the screen concept. And I think in the past, you have speculated that the next frontier is really the glasses, but they've come out and said it's not the glasses, it's going to be something different. And so it's almost hard to wrap your brain around what that might be. Is it a wearable? Is it like what is this concept? So it's going to be anxiously awaiting.
one of the interesting things, there was a recently Johnny Ive, who doesn't do a lot of interviews, was interviewed on stage by Patrick Collison of Stripe, co-founder, and you could see that he has visible. I don't know if regret is the right word, but he's not comfortable with the legacy of the iPhone and the distraction and kind of what's happened to society. I think he would call it unintended consequence of the way the device was designed and how social media has taken it over. But he clearly is not comfortable with what his creation has led to in society. And so I think this is a little bit of the like, how do we find a way that's interacting with computing that takes us back from that kind of permanent distraction device that the phone has become for so many. So it's really interesting to see that interview come out about a week or so ago, and then to see this announcement and him talking about a non-screen device that's less distracting.
We'll see what he comes up with.
This week was also Microsoft's Build conference. They launched Windows AI Foundry, which is a full stack initiative to make Windows the go-to OS for building AI first applications. So what does that mean? Key pieces included native support for open models like Llama and Mistral, the chip level optimizations to run models on device, and a new AI hub in the Microsoft Store to fund emerging developers. In addition, the Edge browser now allows web apps to access local models and system APIs, essentially turning them into super apps that can access all the things on your device. So that was really fascinating for me that they're bringing this kind of like local devices, powerful computers, and then web applications being able to access the native local devices for various capabilities. So that was really interesting. Microsoft really signaling an AI native approach to development and particularly development on Windows. And they're saying, if you want to build an AI first app, we want it coming to Windows first, which was, I thought, a really fascinating part of their announcements this week.
We've talked before about sort of speculation that some of these features are pretty seductive in terms of like pulling people back to Windows, and will this be the sort of final push to make Microsoft cool again is a big question for me, because I think there's a lot of interesting features that they have that really just doesn't seem like others are as far along on.
For years, I've been a Mac user. And ever since I left Google, I became an iPhone user and just haven't kind of felt like that was a proper pulling myself out of the Kool-Aid pouring world into what the rest of the market was doing. But in the last kind of 6 months, I've really started thinking about, do I want a Windows laptop? Do I want an Android phone? Like, are there, the AI capabilities that are kind of much more front and center on those platforms are starting to make a compelling case for switching. I don't know if we'll see wholesale switching from iOS to Android or from Mac to Windows, but it does feel like there's a new energy in both of those platforms towards using AI to differentiate the user experiences. It's actually just kind of really exciting. They've been kind of boring areas, like the phones have been kind of like, eh. same old, Windows, whatever, doesn't matter. You're just in the browser anyway. And now there's really interesting differentiation happening on those platforms. So it's kind of an exciting time that I'm not used to. It hasn't been this way for a while.
Yeah, for sure.
OpenAI unveiled Codex, which is their cloud based AI agent fine tuned for specifically software engineering that autonomously writes features, fixes bugs, run tests, and will follow specific instructions for your team. It operates in a secure, isolated environment, so it kind of spins up its own development environment and then goes working at things. And it integrates into a company's code base through GitHub. So it can kind of look at the bugs that are open, look at all the code, understand what's going on, and then be assigned like a feature to build. And it'll go build it and go off and work for a couple of hours doing this. One of my favorite features is you can actually watch its progress on your phone. So you can actually just say, "Hey, go work on this product, this pull request, this feature request," and then watch what it's doing on your phone over time, which is kind of crazy. And GitHub this week also out with a prototype agent running locally inside a development environment, watching you code in real time and offering autonomous fixes, refactorings, documentation. So you're just seeing a lot more of this agent stuff coming about. And I think initially focused on the software development use case where the models are maybe the strongest, the most capable of operating independently, but they're really starting to go from like autocomplete. Now it's like, just give me a whole feature and I'll go build it, or maybe even a whole app and I'll go build it and tell you when you can come take a look. It's pretty remarkable how fast that's changing. Shopify Summer 25 edition rolls out a wave of AI powered upgrades, including text to store builder that generates a complete storefront from simple descriptions. So taking that kind of no code idea outside of just basic apps and into the Shopify experience. There's a revamped Sidekick assistant with voice, screen sharing, and business task support. And the release also introduces AI shopping agents that help merchants reach customers through platforms like Perplexity. I think Shopify leaning into being the all-in-one small business AI agent for any kind of retailer.
Shopify is a great company. They're so integrated with a bunch of different things, and they're easy to use, so simple. And I think this is going to make it even better and have more access for smaller retails, like you mentioned. So I think this is an exciting announcement.
YouTube just introduced what they call peak points, a new Gemini powered format that analyzes videos for emotionally charged moments like thrilling reveals or intense drama, and then places ads immediately after them to maximize impact. I thought that was interesting. But Netflix, not to be outdone, announced a suite of AI powered ad innovations, including branded mid rolls and pause ads that blend into show environments. So using the show's backgrounds, AI generated imagery inspired by the content of the show so that it feels a little less disruptive and more visually integrated into whatever it is you are watching. So really fascinating. I think these moves signal a real shift from targeting just who sees an ad to engineering when they see it, where they see it, how it looks like based on both personally adaptive to you and context aware to what you're watching or doing. So really interesting advancements in terms of what advertising might look like in an AI powered age.
I don't like when I'm having the experience of watching something and then I'm not sure if it's an ad or not, right? Like there are some that are so good that I'm like, wait, is this an ad or is it not an ad? And you don't realize until later. And I think this type of thing of going more in that like influencing your subconscious to make a purchase as opposed to it just being like, yes, this is an ad, somebody paid for this. I don't love that as a consumer, but I'm super curious what your thoughts are.
I mean, I'm definitely in the I pay for the no ads on YouTube. I pay for the upgraded no ads on Netflix. And I know that like, it's not that big a deal, but I find the no ads experience to be great. And I do find, I don't know if I find it offensive, but the subtle working in the advertorial, like, you're in the magazines, it's the old advertorial where you look like you were reading an article and you're like, wait a minute, this is just an ad. It just looks like an article. And it feels like that. On the other hand, for all those people who don't pay for the no ads, a less disruptive ad watching experience, while maybe subliminally you're going, I don't know if I'm being influenced in a different way, but not being taken out of the experience of the show, having something that feels more natural and less disruptive, maybe is a better consuming experience. I don't know. I'll try and defend them there, but I tend to be with you. I don't really love advertising overall, and I certainly don't love being kind of influenced in ways when I don't realize that's what's happening, which feels like kind of where this could lead. So recent research from Microsoft and Salesforce highlights an interesting challenge for large language models, even the best large language models, which is they struggle with multi-turn conversations, which is interesting because we've been talking about, prompting and having a conversation with these bots as a key part of how to use them. But this study analyzed over 200,000 simulated conversations and found that LLM performance dropped by an average of 40%, 39, 40-ish, in multi-turn scenarios compared to single-turn instructions. So it seems like the LLMs were making incorrect assumptions, taking a wrong turn. They tended to get lost or confused and didn't really recover effectively. So kind of suggesting that one-time prompts are the way to go, which is, I feel like, the opposite advice I was getting just a couple of weeks ago.
I don't trust this research until I see it put up against conversations with a human and see how good they are at multi-turn conversations. Because I still got to believe that while the LLM is not perfect, and many times it will be better.
I don't know that it's I think you're right that it's not necessarily a comparison to human in multi-turn, but as I've been using the LLMs, I will say what I try to do now is get more of the context that I want, not in a specific format. There's no, like you said, all these acronyms for how to prompt and need like these super long, complex prompts. But I try and give everything it needs in a clear answer for what I want in the first prompt, as opposed to using 3 or 4 prompts in a conversation to give it the context. And I find that gives me a better answer. And not that I don't do follow-ups, but they tend to be a new question, a different angle, a different analysis, not let me, oh, I forgot to tell you this. Oh, yeah, don't forget to do this. And then they kind of lose their way along the path. So I just thought this was fascinating.
Yeah, agreed.
This week, Microsoft quietly released Discovery, a new tool designed to accelerate scientific breakthroughs. It helps researchers rapidly parse literature, surface connections, and generate hypotheses using foundation models tuned for scientific data. And so similar to some of the AlphaFold or Meta work we've seen working on real world problems with AI, not just chat based productivity tasks. So I love to see a little under the radar for Microsoft, but one of my favorite things to see these kind of scientific breakthrough oriented models and developments.
These are my favorite types of stories, and I think that, the economics and the money is in the, like, sexy advertising features and this type of stuff, but the real breakthroughs for human society and for the world are in these other science type of applications and medicine, and so I love these types of stories, and I'm glad that Microsoft and others are investing so heavily there.
Epic Games has introduced a groundbreaking feature into Fortnite's latest Star Wars event. Players can now engage in real time conversations with Darth Vader, voiced through an AI generated replication of James Earl Jones' iconic character voice for Darth Vader. So, after defeating Vader on a map, the players can recruit him to their teams and speak directly with him through voice using the in game chat functionality, and he will respond in voice. It's powered using Gemini 2.0 Flash and 11 Labs V2.5 models to process players' voices and Vader's responses. So this was fascinating. But then, in an interesting little addendum, the SAG-AFTRA, the Screen Actors Guild, has filed a labor complaint with the National Labor Relations Board over the lack of negotiations by Epic's contractor Llama Productions with their union before leveraging AI to do work, quote, traditionally done by humans. And I guess there's a whole category of humans who voice Darth Vader in video games, and they were not negotiated with before we used AI to voice a more true to James Earl Jones' iconic voice, Vader. But, I love this AI, Fortnite, labor relations dispute. It's got like all of the hot buttons for us. It's like everything we love in one.
Yeah, that was a niche of, job displacement that I did not have on my radar of, like, James Earl Jones impersonators and them being disrupted by AI.
I'm really curious what happens with this labor relations dispute. I mean, it seems kind of a strange. I was just kind of like reading the story and then, oh, and they got sued by SAG. Like, I just didn't see that
All the
side coming.
things.
So I'd be fascinated to see how that one plays out. And I got to go, defeat Vader on the map in Fortnite with my kids, so I can have a conversation with James Earl Jones this weekend. So it's on my to do list for Memorial Day weekend is to experience AI powered Vader. I've not had the chance to go do that, but I do play Fortnite on occasion with my children. This feels like a good objective for us over the weekend.
Well, you'll have to let us know how it goes. I unfortunately can't do that because when I play Fortnite, I get, like, motion sickness. It's so intense for me, so I gotta hear about your story, and I don't think I can try it myself.
I will try and record when we get there, a little audio recording so you can hear what it sounds like to talk to James Earl Jones as Darth Vader in a video game.
So cool.